Travelers Association. Go anywhere. See the galaxy. Welcome, our friends, to Traveler. Hi, guys. Welcome. We are going through our next episode of Traveler. As you can see, you have myself, Wyatt, and, of course, my friend Sengoku Jedi.
Hey, how's it going?
And we're covering now the general mechanics. As seen in the first video that we did, we covered the world and some key interesting information. Now we're getting into more of the nitty-gritty. How does this game run, and why is this one of our favorite games of all time? Well, here's why.
Yeah, because if you're going to be in space, enjoying some spacefaring, you want to be able to do stuff, and doing the stuff is really what RPGs are all about. So we're gonna kind of show you the basics of how to do stuff in space.
Yes. The stuffing in space. Yep,
yes.
I do like getting stuffed in space.
Right, exactly. And well, you need to know how to get stuffed in space, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get in there.
Yeah. So
Let's
we're
get in
gonna
the guts of this game.
Right. Yeah. So we're gonna cover some of the dice, some of the skills, and that'll lead us into being able to make our characters. So let us go over, and then we can look here in the new guide, the new Traveler 2022 core rulebook. They have a nice gaming convention section, and once again, going back, if you watched our previous video, into the infuriating simplified D system. So remember, if you mentioned last time, the D stands for a D6.
Yep.
So if the book tells you 1D or 2D or 2D plus 3 or 3 or D3, they're all talking about D6s.
They're talking about D's sixes.
Yeah. So pretty much, well, not pretty much, every single thing you roll is going to be on a D6, either 1D, 2D, 3, and then you get all the way up to D66, which is basically a D100, for anybody who's familiar with that. You use 1 as your tens, 1 as your single digits, roll them and see what you got.
And if you put them all together, it looks like 666.
Yeah, convenient.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so same system here. You use your natural 2s, which is your natural 1s, natural 12s. So, that's, if you roll a 2, it's automatic failure. You roll a 12, it's an automatic success. Because if you don't do that in your D&D games, you're disappointing.
Oh, yeah. Your friends laugh at you, and you look really dumb.
Yeah, there should always be natural losses and successes in my mind. And we'll also give you a little breakdown of the technologies, because the technologies are the tech levels are important. Because when you're sailing from world to world, you want to know where this planet is at. So if you like things, like any spacefaring thing, you're going to go to a planet that's super industrial, super pre-stellar, something that's super advanced. And then sometimes you go to dinosaur worlds, right?
And that's where I really enjoy the tech level, is that you can, in a very simple, very quick focus place, especially if you have this list, you can explain, as your party is able to look upon the native population. They know, oh, this is a tech level 3, these are primitives. I know that I probably should not be interfering with their local issues. Oh shit, they're shooting at us. I guess our Star Trek do not be involved with these primitive species. I think that's out the window now, and we gotta get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, always remember the Prime Directive.
Yeah, run for it.
Yeah, it's kind of like in, for those of you who enjoyed, Firefly, it's sort of, that's the idea, right? Is sometimes you go to some Wild West backwater planet, and their technology level is very far back. Or for those of you like Star Trek, sometimes you go to, a Bronze Age or Iron Age place, and you're in ancient Rome.
I was showing the map. I was showing the map to Sky, the map of the massive map I've shown you, and I just clicked on a random star, and the people of that world are primitive, so primitive in style. They still act and operate as though they are in like the Roman centurion like period. So it's like it's fascinating the diversity of culture that you can develop.
Yeah, and what I like too is it also affects your your current tech level. So sometimes when you start an adventure, you have access usually to what is it, TL10?
Yeah, around TL10, TL11 is the average technological level of modern space.
Yeah, so that's, this is early stellar kind of times when you can jump, you can fly, you can use, laser weapons, but you don't have like, like a tactical nuke just casually strapped to your back, or you don't have access to the kinds of technology you'd see in some sci-fi that alien races would.
Oh yeah, and at the same stroke, it also tells you a lot about the experience of witnessing a tech level 16 ship. You know immediately, wow, these people are like extra stellar. This is some wild stuff.
Yeah, because
it can invoke that. Oh, go ahead.
Tech level 15 is essentially like black hole generators. Synthetic things that lifespan is now like limitless. All the way down to 0, which is essentially just fire was just discovered. The wheel is being patented.
Wheel in my fire keeps on turning. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and it. Okay.
Well, that's important, and it makes a diverse world, which is great because you don't necessarily want to have a world where everybody is on the same level. You can set your adventure all the way, that you land on some world and all of your weapons work or don't work, and you're surrounded by a bunch of people that have 0 technology. Or take them to a place where you are now the cave dwellers.
Yeah.
Everyone else is laughing at your puny laser weapons.
And because of that, you can really kind of set the mood of your entire experience. Well, not just kind of. You can entirely set the mood of your player's experience saying, okay, you all are starting on a tech level 9 world. There is a starport up there, but very few people, if ever, get to go upon or deal with it. Most of your life, you are dealing with pre-stellar technology. And so when these travelers, these people who are interplanetary, using these badass spaceships you see here, that, think about you as a traveler going to a planet like that, them looking up and seeing you, and how that can relate to interactions and the role play that can come from that. It's second to none. Is the coolest feeling ever. It's really cool. At least to me, it's one of the coolest things to. And of course, yeah, like I said, Western sci-fi mixed with all different kinds. You can set the tone so quickly with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, or even have social classes have access to different technologies.
Yeah.
And then there's a revolution because the peasants aren't allowed to fly, but the rich people are. Or something along those lines. Or
absolutely.
It just gives a lot of diversity to a space adventure, which a lot of the time they pick a tech level and that's just where everyone's at. It's kind of like Cyberpunk, it's whatever you can afford. It's essentially the sky's the limit. Here it's you might not even be on a planet where that's even an option. You might be in a galaxy where everybody's really far back, or the most that they have is just technology for mining equipment. That's what they were given, the best mining equipment. But their weapons are, it's like a buckshot. That's what...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, TLs can be used, to set an adventure, but it can also be used, to kind of set your party's, level of what you want them having access to. Sometimes giving them, plasma weapons might not be, part of your story. You might not want them to be super advanced, and so I like that control.
Mm-hmm.
And
great tone setter.
Yeah, so I think from there we'll go over to we'll go over to the skills and characteristics. So we're going to cover everything you're going to need to know to make your characters, because we're going to do that together. Because that's easily the best part of this game.
Absolutely.
Is making characters and going through that, because it's a whole process. But much like every role-playing game, if you have a low modifier, your score, you're gonna have a terrible modifier. So the worst you can roll is a 2 unmodified, and the best you can roll is a 12. So if you roll a 12 for your strength, let's say you're gonna have a +2. You roll a 2, you're gonna have a -2.
Oh yeah.
But modifiers can exist either by playing an alien race, or having some sort of disability, or let's say you have a cybernetic enhancement that gives you, +3, and all of a sudden you're a beast with your +3 modifier.
Oh yeah, and one of the things to bear in mind is your stats, especially during character creation, can lower due to the history and life you build. So that, but the lowest during character creation it can be is a 1. So don't get too scared. But having a 1 or a 2 in a stat is not the worst thing. It definitely ain't great, but it ain't the worst thing ever. Because well, we'll explain further later. But your stats are also your HP, but we'll cover that once we get through all this. So. Starting off, with your basic characteristics. Have we covered that yet?
No.
Oh, yeah. So your characteristics are pretty straightforward. Most people who've played tabletop RPGs will kind of, get the gist of it. It's your strength, dexterity, endurance, intellect, education, social. Strength and dexterity are your physical stats. They're also your reaction time, ability to lift, and the usual things that strength and dex cover. Endurance is how much you can take, emotionally, physically, more accurately physically, but
definitely just physically.
Oh yeah, but then you have intellect, education, social. Intellect affects your catch-all obtainable knowledge and how quickly you can learn different skills, and education covers your book smarts. It also covers how many starting extra skills you begin with, and last but not least, social is how well you interact with not just people, but it also is a direct representation of your social class. So it's kind of a multifaceted skill. So that's something you got to watch out for those who are like, I don't want a character who knows how to talk to people. Well, but I also want to be a lord. Well, those two things are not necessarily mutually exclusive, but sometimes there's those who are more sociable will do much better in a social environment than not. So something to remember and consider.
Yeah, and I mean, it's pretty simple. If, like I said, like you were saying, if you've played before, the only exception here is education, which is, basically, a wisdom stat with a different kind of spin to it, and social standing, which is kind of an interesting twist because it's not your charisma, but it is
Exactly.
your charisma.
It is and isn't, and that's what makes it is like. How best to explain this? It's the how rich are you stat.
Exactly.
How elated are you in society?
Exactly. You could be a prince, and it doesn't necessarily mean directly correlate to this person is very well spoken.
Mm-hmm.
But you are respected socially because you have a lot of money or influence.
Yup. And so people will tend to want to be your friend, not because you're nice, but because you got money.
Yeah. And then all of these things basically go into how you do the stuff we were mentioning earlier. How do you fly a ship? How do you shoot a gun? How do you wrestle an alien species? All of these apply to your skills and to your combat and all that kind of stuff, which we're gonna go into.
Oh yeah.
So if we just,
excuse me.
So yeah, we're gonna go have a look at our skills. Because like I said, we're gonna cover all of the character stuff, so that's really the next big thing. And that affects, obviously the type of skills you're going to take. But what's interesting with this game is you don't have a lot of choice about what your character is going to look like.
Oh, yeah.
You have aspirations like any young person. I'm sure everybody listening to this, their life didn't pan out exactly how they planned it. For good, bad, or otherwise. And that's kind of an interesting thing that Traveler does.
The best, I believe, personally, the best advice I've ever heard is go into it as though you are a spry 18-year-old kid who has a direction they want to go to, and be ready for life to throw its bullshit at you.
Yeah, like there's been plenty of people who have been like, they have a picture in their head. I want to be Johnny Rico from Starship Troopers. And that's their picture. They're like, this is the type of sci-fi I want, or I want to be Jean-Luc Picard. And then they end up, going to jail, being in debt, losing an arm. And there's some people who are like, I just want to be like a scholar, like I want to be a teacher in this world. And then they end up getting drafted and becoming like an admiral,
Yup.
So it's where you end up and where you want to be are usually not correlated.
But I will say, exactly, I will say, even though it may not go the way you want to, stick it out, because every character I've ever seen being made using this system is entirely playable. Mm-hmm. Has a rich, potent story, all their own. It's really cool.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like, you think going to prison, it's like, well, this is the end. But sometimes it's actually pretty great because it ends up leading you to getting a bunch of skills that you would never would have had. It makes you your character has a little bit of grit, for like a scholarly, bookish type. He's, you got a little bit of extra skill. She's, knows how to talk to people on the street or something. So, always play it out because having the best character has never led to the best experience. It's always having the most interesting one in my experience.
Oh yeah, and that's why one of my favorite characters ever written is actually Book from Firefly, because he has all this unknown story, but his ultimate goal and want is to simply be a priest, simply conveys faith. But at the same time, he has combat techniques. He knows how to operate and be able to conceal his identity. He has fake IDs and all this shit that make you go, holy shit, what? I thought you were just a priest, and you can do that kind of thing. You're like, oh, I'm a Navy pilot, but I'm also a charming motherfucker. Oh, don't ask why. I have a history. Mm-hmm. And it can lead to really cool things.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at the other characters there too. It's like Mal is like, lost to war. That's like that's someone's dream start. Or like, I was a doctor, but then like my sister got kidnapped by a bunch of blue-handed people, and I threw it all away. That's not. Anybody who's coming into the Traveler universe is generally not gonna. Their life hasn't been perfect. Or else the setting doesn't make a lot of sense unless you set the whole thing on a starship where they're, like the USS Enterprise where everything's perfect and great. Usually it's you're gonna want something that's brought them down, brought them to a place where they're gonna want to set out on their own and have to survive in the bleakness of space, because it gives you a lot more story options, I think.
Yeah. An imperfect character can make for the perfect family. A group of imperfect characters can make for some of the best cinema there is.
Yeah, otherwise you have to have a hierarchy or something in place to keep it all structured and organized.
Oh yeah. Which is entirely the way you can play. Mm-hmm. Like the way we're talking about it, we're looking at Firefly and things like that, and like Star Citizen kind of Starfield experience. That's entirely awesome. But those who want to do a rigid military hierarchy or something, that's an entire playstyle too. Like that, you can play this that way too. Like Battlestar Galactica, Starship Troopers. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure. Hey, if that's the way you want to do it, it facilitates your way to go. Do your thing.
Yeah, we're just like, and that it might be because once again we're kind of like we're junk space nerds. We like this sort of. We like the sort of Firefly, or Millennium Falcon type of sci-fi where you're on an imperfect ship and the situation is less than ideal and you're kind of on the edges of society.
Absolutely.
To us, that's the perfect sci-fi.
Yeah. Looking behind us right now, this image is my favorite traveler image. That's not even a joke. I love this image because it conveys a lot of things without saying much. You can see the rifle in a saddle. He's riding like a horse. You can see the ship flying in the background. This technological advancement with this average technological construction, and it's this beautiful mesh. And you see the stars beyond because you're constantly going out there and seeing worlds. I enjoy that. At the same time, exactly, I love me some fucking junky looking crap hole ship innards. I just love space, man. It's so fucking cool. And to get to do this kind of thing, get to do that kind of space western, or like this NASA inspired technical systems, all the way to super science fiction. This game facilitates all of it. It's so fucking cool. Oh yeah.
Yeah, this the space Sleipnir that he's riding here. This
exactly. Again, eight-legged creature.
Yeah.
That shit's cool as fuck.
Agreed.
Oh yeah. Exactly, and that's why, give the system a chance. When you're rolling your character up, give it the shot, because if you give it a shot here, you can find that your skills, the skills that build up this game, because the skills are the core of the experience, exactly as he said, you'll find yourself having things in your pocket that you never realized would come up, like, oh, I need a carousal check. Oh, well, I got carousal too. I'm really good at parties. So I'm going to go and, bump shoulders with these, rough and tumble mercenaries and make them all my best friends. But you're the squad doctor. Yeah, I am, and I lived a life.
Yeah, that's sort of like we had this one traveler game we played where the person wanted to just be, what was it, like a scientist. They wanted to study alien creatures.
Yep.
Ended up losing that job. They failed out of that career and then had to get drafted into the scouts. But that ended up
became a member of the Scout Corps.
That allowed him to actually be able to hold up his own in a fight, because other than my character, who was just was the Space Marine, who was everything went right for my character that game. It's just oh yeah, he's got another advancement in his career, but everybody else was going to jail or losing limbs, but it helped him out because if I wasn't around, we needed someone who could shoot a gun, and just happened to get enough skills to do that. So
yep, he could be able to hold his own in a fight if the big guy was out there, which can be that little thing in your pocket that you never realized. You're oh, but I wanted to be the nerd. Well, now you're a nerd with a gun, motherfucker.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And that captures the system very perfectly. You're absolutely right with that beautiful anecdote. This game is so good.
So I pulled up here the skills and the tasks. So it's basically like I said, it's the 2d6 system that we were talking about. That's how you make all your checks. And so you roll your 2d and add any dice modifiers for basically if it's a strength check, your strength. If it's a dex check, your dex modifier. And if it's 8 or more,
excuse me, I'm sorry, is a page of the book supposed to be represented right now?
Yes. It is. You'll see it.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah,
now I see it. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you're like I said, you can't see the studio mode.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Go ahead and start from the beginning. We'll cut this part out. I'm sorry. I'll shut
up. Yeah. So I pulled out the skills and tasks, which is basically the way that you do all the things you want to do. In this game, you roll your 2d6. And add any appropriate dice modifiers, which is if it's a strength check, your strength, dex is your dex, etc., etc. And if it's 8 or more, that's an average success. And then your referee, which is the game master, basically dictates the level of the challenge. And then, but an 8 is an average success, for all of these things.
Mhm.
So there's an example here. It's you want to open a sealed door, that's the strength. You want to balance on a narrow beam, that's dex. Trek through desert, endurance. Decipher an alien puzzle box, int. Remember some trivia, education, or impress a guard. That's your social standing. And then, so this is how you do all your skill checks. So your skill checks, here you go, perfect example, your task difficulties. So easy is trivial, routine is standard, so it's usually like a 6 or more. An average task is about an 8. Difficult task is about a 10, very difficult is 12. All the way up to impossible, which is 16. So remember, if you roll, the max you can roll is a 12. So you'd need a +4 somehow. So that would be, let's say you're a great pilot, so you have 3 in pilot, and then you add your modifier, and then you roll a 12. That's the only way you could reconstruct alien DNA or rebuild a worldwide military-grade computer network from scratch, or fly a starship through an arena, an area of space filled with, stellar phenomena. Basically, like any of the epic shit you want to do.
Just this epic, crazy shit that, you want to flaunt.
Yeah. And then there is the boons and the banes. You want to explain the boons and the banes?
So boons and banes is really awesome because it is essentially an additive. So let's say a difficult challenge is made easier by the aid of a companion. So you add an extra d6 to your total. So you have, in this case, let's say a standard roll is 2d6 plus your modifiers. In this case, if it is a boon, you got an extra d6. So let's say, you're getting help for doing this. Or, you have the right, let's say, equipment for attempting this maneuver or gear. You get this boon that is able to be added along with, and you roll 3d6, and you keep the 2 highest. And of those 2 highest, you add your modifier, and there's your success roll. 3d6, reduce it to the 2 best, and then add the modifier. Same, but opposite for a boon. A boon is a negative effect.
A bane.
Oops, I said bane, didn't I?
No, you said boon.
I'm sorry. A bane is a negative modifier. Thank you. It allows for the GM, if let's say that a player is trying to attempt something and they are critically wounded. They're attempting something while heavily damaged. Or they're attempting to try something while they are pinned down by loads of gunners and shit like this, but they're attempting this crazy maneuver to get on out of it. Instead of it just being like a crazy high roll, they invoke a disadvantage, which that equals this bane, meaning you roll those 3d6s, but you keep the lowest 2 add modifier, and there's your roll. And this is usually, again, like I said, involving help or a messed up utensil. Things are just getting insurmountably harder, but instead of just raising the bar of the roll, you're raising the difficulty by adding that extra die that can lower their chances of success. So, because under normal circumstances, this should be just an 8, but in this situation, it's an 8, but you roll 3d6 and drop the highest one, and you keep the lowest 2. That is how it kind of goes about being in this experience, and you can see like the effect that such a roll or a result can have, being that it's even worse or harder. Success or failures, different levels of that success, all affected not just by the standard roll, but by these. It's an extra tool in the GM's pocket for engaging encounters, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I really like the effects of, the exceptional failure, average failure, marginal. I really like that because, it really adds another level to it. Like, yeah, you did it, but... you did it, and... it's kind of...
Yes, and, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like you fixed it and made it and improved it. Or maybe you fixed it, but it'll only work once and then it will die.
Yeah.
It's kind of
It adds... Go ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of just a little additive to every situation that flavors it nicely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It could definitely make the sweat on the palms in some of those more intense moments for sure.
And then there's of course like opposed checks, like if you're trying to wrestle someone, you know, or if you're trying to barter with someone or something where there's another person involved, then you know, it's just a roll off.
Oh yeah. Opposed checks can also be very nail biting because of how things can go. Is because you witness and you're trying to roll against that core established by another roll. It's more fluid than just the static 8. So it's pretty interesting.
And that's where the effects come in, because it can be different circumstances. Like let's say you are climbing up a ladder and someone's trying to shove you down that ladder. The person at the top has a lower difficulty to push you down than you have to climb up it. But if you just kill it, you get going up here, you get an exceptional success, and they just get a marginal success. You know, you're able to climb that ladder and push past them, even though you both succeeded, but you succeeded better than that person because your challenge was harder, and you just rolled better. So it's a cool system. I really like how that factors in. It's not just I rolled an 18, you rolled an 18, or you rolled a 20, and then your number is higher. It's like, well, no, one person's challenge is maybe an 8 and the other person's is a 14, but that person rolled 3 higher, so they have a average success versus a marginal. So it's kind of a cool system. And then there's time frames, which are pretty in this, it's a second is a second, a combat round is about 6 seconds. Everything else is pretty much just pretty standard stuff there. Task change is is very similar to what we were talking about before. It's just kind of, if you failed it once before, you're gonna have a harder time because you're just not on a roll. Whereas if someone's just killing it, like you're doing really well, you're figuring it out, you're gonna continuously be more and more successful. Okay, yeah, so these are the skills of Traveler. So we're not gonna go over every one because there is a ton, as you can see.
Oh yeah. It's a vast game, and skills have sub skills, like sub lists underneath them, and to go through the whole list would take us quite a bit. Like that could be a video by itself.
Yeah, so you do, when you pick certain ones like Flyer, you have to specify what thing you have experience flying. If you pick gun combat, you have to, shooting a energy weapon is not the same as, firing a bow. It's, so you have to pick where you want to go, and it will kind of give you like a little breakdown of, what the average pass for something is. When it comes to, like let's say Flyer, safely landing is a 6, racing another flyer is an opposed check, gambling average pass is an 8, and then there's the modifiers that the game master will throw in there depending on what the level of expertise of the people you're against are as well. And then that brings us down to combat.
Oh yeah. Let's just say all persuasion checks have failed, and now it's down to the initiative round. And that's where combat starts.
And you're welcome to do any initiative type you want. Lately, to save time, a lot of the time we've been doing one check for the whole party. But doing one for each player is the classic way. That way you can delay your actions until later in the turn. And otherwise it operates like any other system. So the combat round is about 6 seconds. You can do a minor and a significant action. Pretty similar to move and major action. And if one has the same initiative, the other one, whoever has a higher dex, goes first.
Yep.
So, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, they're broken up into, your significant, your minor, and your major actions, all that good stuff. So, sorry, go ahead. Spaced out for a moment.
All good. So yeah, so you get you have various actions you can do here, and it tells you what your significant actions are, which is basically any attacks are going to be a significant action. Hit someone with a club, shoot a gun. This is all going to be a minor action, or sorry, a significant action.
A significant action. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas minor actions might be something, applying first aid or doing something like that. Like aiming is another good one. Aiming is a minor action, changing stance, reloading, moving around. These are all things that you can do, as well as you can aim and then fire. If you want to get the bonus, though, you got to spend a whole turn kind of setting it up.
Lining up the shot for the hit.
And free actions, like most games, you can talk. That's always a free action.
Crying is a free action as well.
Yes, yeah, always. It happens often.
But one that it does that is a little different, but not too dissimilar from other tabletop RPGs, is extended actions. Some skills take longer than others to accomplish, and so the period at which you are rolling and the dice rolling, it becomes this chain as you're focusing your action and engaging with this specific item. And so instead, trying to attempt to break open a door while plasma fire is whizzing over your head, you're trying to hack into the door mainframe or something like that. That would be an extended action. It wouldn't just be a grab and go kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Because like anybody who's seen a sci-fi knows that door that never just right opens. There's always got to be, one person trying to hack the door as everyone else fights off everybody while it happens.
Yep. Because it's pulse pounding, you know it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's also reactions, so if you're going to be attacked or, you can dodge a shot, parry a blow, things like that. Diving for cover, you can always try and jump out of the way.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so then we get to the attacks itself. So we have like a melee attack. Then you're gonna roll your melee skill, and try and, let's say it's an 8 as an average because you're trying to hit an average opponent. So you gotta roll your 2d, add your melee attack bonus plus your strength, and then if that hits, then you roll. Let's say it's a dagger. That's a 1d6 plus 2. And
roll that, you get a 5, your total of 7, and boom, you did 7 damage.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and when it comes to damage of NPCs, for the referee to know is that NPCs do HP and health does not operate the same as player characters. So when you go into that, it's something you'll track differently. Because when we talk about how players take damage, that's going to be a whole thing in of itself, kind of like what we're about to step into.
Yeah, we can talk about that right now, actually, because, when you're tracking what an NPC, it's just easier to have a number in your head for this is this person's hit points.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be much lower than, like, a 5th edition D&D or something, where it's like, everybody you face is 84. That's pretty unrealistic.
It is fucking godlike in this game.
Yeah. So they're gonna have a number, but the difference is in this game is when you take damage, it's not purely a physical thing. It's not something where you just get hit in your arm and then your arm, is hurt. It's more so you're applying your damage to your stats itself. And that's to account for psychological trauma or a blow to the head that makes you forget something, or it could be a shot to your leg that makes you less dexterous.
Absolutely. And that's what, in my opinion, sets this game apart, is it does the classic spin down where you're rolling worse and worse the more damage you take, but instead of it being, your health pool, and it being some static amount, and once it hits a certain amount of HP, it reduces the die pool, you're actively seeing what you can roll for your strength reducing, because more times than not, you as a player, the GM may describe the damage, or as you as a player can describe it, and you choose what from between strength, dexterity, or endurance, gets decreased as you take that damage. And so if you get a 0 strength, someone likely cut your fucking arm off, or severed, made a major severance in your body, or caused you critical levels of damage. And so there's a lot of role play that can come from that I really enjoy.
Yeah, so in the new version, the 2022, which last time we played it wasn't this version, but in the new version, it basically says that you start with your endurance, and then bring your endurance down to 0, and
so
then
in this one it starts with endurance. Got it.
Then it's deducted from your strength or your dex. So that's a slight change. I mean, you can keep it or leave it, whatever you prefer.
Right.
But to me, that does make a little bit of sense. I guess because that would be the first thing that you lose. And then if you have 0 strength, 0 dex, and 0 endurance, you're dead, buddy.
Dead.
Yeah.
You're a corpse.
And then basically, our melee attacks are pretty standard. Armor works the same way. Usually it's just decreasing, taking a little bit of the damage. It doesn't make you harder to hit. It just pads your hits.
Pads out that incoming damage.
Cover does make you harder to hit. Hiding is the same deal. Just you're completely undercover and they might not be able to target you. Destructive weapons. That's like, imagine like you're getting strafed by a Star Destroyer and you're just on the planet standing there.
Oh, yeah.
You might just get vaporized. You might just get completely wiped.
And
that's realistic.
They do what's known as macro damage, which is like its damage is done in like the tens place. So yeah, one hit and you're fucking smeared. See, yeah, right there, a destructive weapon, damage by 10. So yeah, if you get shot by that kind of thing, you're not walking away. I don't care how good your armor better be, like the highest of end to take one hit, let alone more.
Yeah, like if you're getting hit, you're probably, like, realistically, if you're getting hit by a ship weapon, you're probably dead.
Oh yeah,
that's just the reality, like, of that. But yeah, combat plays out. I mean, it's gonna go depending on, it's gonna look basically however DMs like to play it. How intense you want to get. Do you want to have a campaign where people are running and gunning, or where it's a Starship Troopers type thing where they're standing and fighting? You should really cater the how you want to run that to. Don't put them in situations where they're getting strafed at by starships unless they deserve it.
Unless they put themselves in that situation.
Yeah, exactly. If they're baiting like a Star Cruiser, then yeah, maybe they have it coming.
When you make the choice to blow up a space station, you get, axe meet hammer. You call down the thunder.
And then they also have here, they have some different weapon abilities here, so weapon traits. So, APX is armor penetrating, X is how much it penetrates through. Same with auto, X, that's, automatic, so you can do a single burst, full auto, and that's how many shots go out. Each weapon will list basically what its X is. Blast is explosive, bulky just means it's really big. Think, aliens when they're carrying those giant what's the names of them again? I'm trying to think.
In Aliens, the giant mech, like the mech walker.
No, the handguns that they were carrying.
Oh, the smart gun.
Yeah, the smart gun. Yeah,
smart gun.
They had to have that whole like gyroscope thing, the whole system in place,
maintain it.
Because otherwise it would be bulky, and it would just basically mean that you have to be extremely strong, or you're gonna every shot you're gonna be thrown off.
Yeah, because it's just too much volumes of fire going down on one range. But yeah, exactly.
Radiation is very Fallouty. Imagine blasting someone with, something that's gonna irradiate them, and that's a factor that happens too if you're in space. Without a suit or something like that. Radiation that's naturally there is gonna irradiate you, so it's always a factor when you're picking your armors and your weapons.
Oh yeah.
Scopes let you hit better. Smart is interesting because smart is kind of like the sci-fi's answer to enchanted. You know what I mean? It's kind of like giving a little. It's like a +1 sword. It's a smart gun. You know.
Yep. The weapon knows who it's hunting.
Yeah. Stun is kind of like, like think a prison guard with a taser baton or something, or a stun gun. Very bulky is, that's, you're thinking, the gun on the back of the Warthog in Halo. And 0G is just something you'd only, you'd use in zero gravity. So I think all lasers are 0G. Whereas, you're firing a ballistic weapon, you're using like an AK in space. Not going to be super effective. It's, they're just going to kind of fly off.
Oh yeah, you need specialized spacefaring firearms if you're using kinetic, but just use lasers, bro. Don't pay the extra money. Just use lasers.
Yeah,
Sorry, guys. Hell yeah! Please remember to like and subscribe and follow our content.
So thanks for tuning in, everyone. This is Sengoku. That's my buddy Wyatt.
Hey.
We will see you soon, and until then, be kind.
Kind or be kinda.
Later.